So a match of the Rugby Championship 2024 competition is about to take place. It will be the All Blacks taking on the Pumas, a rematch of the semi-final in the Rugby World Cup 2023. This is the first of two matches that they will be going head-to-head before New Zealand head to South Africa and Australia take on the Argentines. But in this preview, we will be looking through at the lineups that both of these sides have announced, their key players, the previous fixtures for the two sides, and then at the end a prediction of who we think will be getting the win. But we will start with the All Blacks. They did announce their side on Thursday morning. They went with a little bit of a new look side compared to what some were expecting. Couple nice changes and a few younger players getting the chance in this match. In the front row, it is Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor, and Tyrell Lomax. It is what the All Blacks have consistently gone with throughout their games up against England, as well as throughout their Rugby World Cup. We did see those three quite often throughout their comp. Tupavai and Sam Derry as the locking duo. So not a huge amount of experience there for the All Blacks. It's been talked about that their line out is somewhere that they really need to get right. And you wonder whether or not these young players, maybe that could actually work in their favour. They haven't got that experience of Barrett. They haven't got the experience of Tui Pelotu, but they've got the young, hungry guys who want that opportunity for the upcoming games. In the loose forward trio, this is where they have gone with Ethan Blackadder as the number 6. No Summer Penny Finau for this contest. Dalton Papali'i at number 7. And then Ardie Savea, the captain, Ardie Savea, as the number 8. TJ Perenara will get the start at 9 after his injury up against the English. This will be his first minutes back. In the last game up against the Fijians, we saw New Zealand use Cortez Aratama in the starting side. He actually ended up getting injured in that game. Noah Hotham making his way off the bench on debut, and he did enough in that game to not only play well and help the All Blacks towards a victory, but also book himself a spot in the Rugby Championship squad. We will possibly see him later on in the comp, but Damian McKenzie once again will be that starting 10. I'm expecting quite an attacking style of rugby from the All Blacks here. At the end of the day, the last time that they played Argentina, they did just that, and that was where they got themselves the big win in that World Cup semi-final. Mark Talia, he will be starting out on the left wing. In the midfield, Geordie Barrett with Anton Leonard-Brown. So a new midfield combo, well, at least new for this year. We have seen it in the past, but Rieko Ioane's form hasn't quite been where the All Blacks want it to be, so instead he will be making his way off the bench alongside the return of Will Jordan. And Anton Leonard-Brown does get that start as the number 13. Number 14, Sevu Reece. And then number 15, Beauden Barrett. Real impact off the bench for Beauden throughout those first two matches up against the English. He started the game up against Fiji. New Zealand were on attack constantly throughout that game, and we didn't really get to see a huge amount of Beauden Barrett. But I feel like this game, we might even see him play a little bit of that first or second receiver role, like in the second half up against England in Test match number 2. Perhaps that is where we will see some great stuff from Beauden Barrett. But looking through at the starting lineup for the Argentines, they have got Thomas Garchot as the number 1, Inacio Ruiz at 2. Now, we are used to seeing either Julian Montoya or Agustin Crevi. Not the case in the starting lineup here. For Los Pumas, Eduardo Bello will be there as the tight head prop in the locking duo. This is where they have got Franco Molina as the number 4 and number 5, Pedro Rubiolo. So no Thomas Lavanini in the starting side. The Argentines, just like New Zealand, they've got quite a few new names coming through their side. Definitely in that forward pack, although in the loose forward trio, this is what we have got used to seeing. Pablo Matera, number 6, Marcos Crema, number 7, and then Juan Martin Gonzalez as the number 8. We've got to remember, this is a young man at number 8 who pretty much made his name for himself from this competition. Couple years ago, he was absolutely phenomenal. Last year, he was having some great performances in the shortened version of the Rugby Championship. He's definitely one to watch out for, and he also offers that versatility of being able to slot into 6. Worst comes to worst, for the backline, it will be Gonzalo Bertrano as the starting 9, with number 10 being Santiago Guerreras. He is another guy that has done extremely well throughout the Rugby Championship. In fact, I remember a couple years ago actually having him in my team of the tournament. We haven't done one of those videos in quite a long time. Maybe we'll have to bring it back for this Rugby Championship. If that is something you want to see, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Out on the left wing, it is Mateo Carreras, who could easily make his way into that team of the tournament. Number 12, Santiago Chochabrez. Number 13, Lucio Cinti. Then Matthias Maroni out on the right wing, and then number 15, Juan Cruz Malia, to close out the starting side for Argentina. So both teams are stacked for this matchup. Argentina, their backline is phenomenal. It is known for being able to bust through defenses, although up against the French on home soil, we didn't see as much attack as a lot of people anticipated from Argentina. Maybe fell into the way that France were playing a little bit. We saw a lot of kicks throughout that first test between the two sides, but of course we'll be looking through at the scores in a very short moment. In terms of key players for the All Blacks in the starting side, McKenzie, that backline needs to function around him. They've got some brilliant options in terms of the wings, but I think that Anton Lienert-Brown at number 13 could be an absolute game changer here for the All Blacks. Not only does he have a brilliant rugby brain, but also his power. It's those type of attributes that he's really developed throughout the last year or so of Super Rugby Pacific. Debatably had his best ever season in Super Rugby for 2024, so I would love to see that form continue. And I mean, in the short moments that we've seen him in the All Blacks kit, you'd have to say it certainly has. Great off the bench up against the English, and then strong in the starting lineup up against the Fijians. In terms of the forward pack, this is where I think one of these two young men are going to secure themselves a locking jersey in the future. Sam Derry or Tupou Vaa'i. Now, Vaa'i's had more opportunities than Derry. Derry only having his debut up against Fiji in San Diego. But just in those moments that we saw of Sam Derry, he looked like he was supposed to be there. And that is one thing that you love to see for a younger player. The fact that he's pretty much just taken on that role. It could be because of the fact that he was in the All Blacks environment, still training with the squad. His mum's the dietitian, I believe, for the All Blacks. So I assume she has been also with the side. So it'll feel like a second home for Sam Derry in that lineup. And perhaps that is where he will stay in the future as well. For the Argentines, we talk about Marcos Crema quite a bit, mainly because that man is normally getting himself some sort of card. Now, the benefit of the Rugby Championship is if he so desires to get himself red carded, it will only be 20 minutes rather than the full 80. More than likely would still get suspended though, so has to behave himself throughout this match. But he loves physicality, same with those other two in the loose forward trio of Juan Matan Gonzalez as well as Pablo Matera. And that is something they have to make sure that they aren't risking in this game. You can be physical, you just can't go too far. And if they go too far, that is where Argentina, at any stage throughout this match, if they have a man disadvantage, I believe the All Blacks score 2 tries throughout that 10 minutes, which sounds harsh, but we've seen it time and time again. Argentina can be extremely strong when they have 15 on the field, but normally it's when they go down to 14 that they drop their heads, and they can't afford that this early on in the Rugby Championship. In terms of that back line, I do really think that Santiago Carreras as well as Mateo Carreras are going to be the two main guys to watch out for. The way that Bertrand has taken to that 9 jersey though is also extremely impressive, but I would say it is going to be Santiago and Mateo who need to make the real impact for this matchup. Mateo Carreras, he is going to be marking up with Sever Reese. His defense has to be on point, but if he gets some sort of space down that wing, I'd say it's going to be a handful for the Crusaders winger. But nonetheless, now we move on to what has happened recently for these two sides. For New Zealand, as many people will know, they did play England in their internationals throughout July, and also a match up against the Fijians in San Diego for their last contest. Now, up against the English, that was an extremely close series. And to be honest, it could have gone either way. England so close to winning the first, debatably close to winning the second as well, although New Zealand winning that one by a little bit more of a margin. First match for New Zealand, they did win up against the English 16 points to 15. The second was 24 points to 17, and then their most recent game, it was up against the Fijians, and they did win it 47 points to 5. So a lot more one-sided throughout that game. Quite a few of the men who played in that match, though, not actually playing in this contest. We get to see a few of them, such as Wallace Atiti. He will be making his way off the bench. Lienert-Brown was in the starting lineup for that game. Same with Reese, same with Barrett. But then no sign of Billy Proctor rather than Ioane coming off the bench. Looking through at what Argentina did throughout their July internationals. They were up against the French. They were on home soil, Argentina, but that didn't really show in their first contest. Defeated 28 points to 13 by a young French side that didn't have a lot of their international stars. The second game, though, that is where Argentina fought back and they managed to win it 33 points to 25. They were a lot more clinical throughout that game, and it did seem like they had found that edge again that they needed and perhaps that they were lacking throughout that first test. Just would have been awesome to see a third to see whether or not Argentina were going to continue that momentum, or maybe France were going to be able to right some of those wrongs and then fire back and win a series 2-1. But instead, Argentina played Uruguay and they won that game 79 points to 5. So not a very close game, but Argentina dominating in terms of that contest. It's great to see them finishing July on a high. But now we move on to a score prediction, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the last time that these two sides played, New Zealand won 44 points to 6. That was in the World Cup semi-final. They did play prior to that, though, only a few months beforehand in the shortened Rugby Championship. New Zealand winning that game 41 points to 12. And that was actually in Argentina that we did see that match take place. Argentina scoring 2 tries in that game. Sordoni got 1, and then Agustin Crevi was the man who scored the other try for Los Pumas. So the more recent history between the two sides has definitely been in favour of New Zealand, who have brought up 40 points on both occasions. Argentina, they have struggled to be able to score multiple tries up against New Zealand, but I'd like to think that they'd have a bit of a crack here. I want to say that it's going to be close. Maybe that's because I'm thinking back to when Argentina did pull off the upset and beat New Zealand in New Zealand, but it's going to be tough for the Pumas here. I'm going to go New Zealand to win this game 35 points to 15. I mean, that could sound harsh for Argentina. That could actually sound harsh for the All Blacks, though, depending on how they play throughout this matchup. Some may even be picking them to win by a bigger margin. A lot of people think in New Zealand, if they don't get the bonus point here, it would be a disappointing game for them. And of course, with the Rugby Championship, you do need 3 or more tries than your opposition to be able to get the 5 points. But nonetheless, do let me know what your score prediction is in the comments down below, as well as who you think will be man of the match for this exciting contest. But it is taking place at 7:05 p.m. New Zealand time on Saturday night. Should be an outstanding game, and we are going to be live on the channel doing the commentary all throughout it, as well as South Africa versus Australia. So if you are new, be sure to check those out. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all for the next one.